Hello and welcome to my video. Well, I just thought today I would try a couple of things. I'm not going to paint the cat. I could do a little bit of work on this painting. This is something I did just over a week ago, I guess, for a Zoom class. So it's dry enough, I suppose. I mean, for demonstration purposes, possibly it's okay, but maybe I would normally let it dry a little bit longer. But I could put a bit of a glaze on that, and I could put a few finishing touches. I've also got this one, which is hanging on the wall behind my computer. I want to do something mostly to the foreground. I'm quite happy with the sky, it seems okay. But the foreground, I don't know, to me, it just looks a bit too tidy. So perhaps I will untidify that a bit. The other thing I could do would be to work on this one a little bit. This is really quite big. It's on canvas, goes on forever. That's quite a big sky there, as you can see. So yeah, that may be a possibility. So what shall it be? And there's this one. I forgot about this. I just had a little dig around in my studio, and here's one. I think this was a Zoom class a few weeks ago. I think it was called Trees and Puddles or something. Anyway, a bit of a puddle in the foreground. So I think I'll put a bit of a glaze on that. It's got a nice fresh looking sky, but I'll add something to it. Maybe red. Red always seems to work. Do I need to do anything with the foreground? I might. I don't know. It's one of these, you know, do you get these days when you think, what am I going to do today? Oh yeah, I'll definitely do that, but I might not. So I'm having one of those days. So let's see how far we get. I think she's happy with the idea as well. Are you happy with the idea? I'll take that as a yes. It's always good when the cat agrees with you, isn't it? So let's see what we can do with this. There's a little close-up of some bits. I think that the thing with video, very important, I've found, said he, doing it, is not to move too quickly. People get dizzy. I know I do. Sometimes people put videos up on Instagram, and they have the potential to be really quite nice videos, you know, sort of everyday stuff, but they move the camera too quickly, and it's really off-putting. So I'm going to go slowly as I can here. So there's a sort of, you have to bear in mind, this painting was done in a Zoom class, so the whole thing would have been probably a maximum of about an hour. They usually are. It's usually an hour. So, you know, as far as finesse goes, I don't know, not a lot in there, is there? It's basically thrown together. So I'm gonna carry on the tradition of throwing together and throw some colour onto the sky. So let's just position the camera so you can see at least all of the sky. So one of the best things you can do with glazing is basically is to add a bit of red. It's up to you what red you use. I mean, it doesn't have to be red. I mean, I'll tell you what I could do. Let's experiment. You have to be a bit careful with this because I've got blue on there and I'm going to put yellow on. Now, if I put yellow on there, it may make a touch of green in the sky. But I'm going to get some yellow out just to see what happens. Because, as you know, nothing can really go wrong. It's just, I don't know, what do you call it? It's all a game, isn't it? You're playing with paint. In fact, this is coming off the brush looking more like green than yellow, actually. Probably because there's a touch of blue on the brush. Never mind. See what happens. What happens if we put just a hint of yellow there? Quick looking at my camera. Oh yeah, definitely green. Doesn't matter. Maybe that's what we want. And it'll change in a minute anyway. Let's push some down into there, actually into the trees. Now anything that I put on here, of course, this is glazing. I think I've said this before, but I'm going to say it again. There are different ways of glazing. You can use all kinds of recipes. Lots of the old masters had their own recipe using resins and all kinds of stuff. I just use linseed oil. You could use it, any medium, anything that dilutes oil colour, like liquid or alkyd, any of those. And all you're doing is making the paint more fluid and seeing what it does. I think that adds a certain amount of atmosphere. So before I start wiping on that with a piece of paper, literally just a piece of paper, right? I'm going to put a touch of red in it. These are really small amounts of paint that I'm using. I just put a little blob on my palette about the size of an acorn. Okay, so I've added some red to the yellow. Let's just get that in there. Literally, you know, as relaxed as that. I've got rattling palette knives now. Let's see if I can stop that. It may not get on your nerves, but it'll get on mine. Right, there we go. There's a little bit of Japanese red thrown into the mix. And I don't really care about what it looks like at the moment, because the final tweaking will be done with the paper. So let's get a stronger bit of red. In other words, more red, less oil, and less yellow. And let's just put some along there. There we are, literally just... It's not exactly what you would call piling it on, but I'm sort of scrubbing it, basically. Just scrub it in. Let's have a little bit over here as well. Now the beauty of this, I can show you how to do this, but if I catch it while it's wet, in other words finish the video, I can take all this off, just literally wipe the slate clean, and then I can do it all again at a Zoom class. I could carry on from where I left off. I probably won't though. I think my Zoom students, I think, yes, they do like to see me finish stuff off, I think, yes. But I got a feeling, correct me if I'm wrong, if any of you are out there watching this, perhaps you'd prefer to see stuff, you know, paintings from scratch, rather than glazing. I don't know. What do I know? I know nothing. The older I get, the less I know. Or is it the older I get, the less I wonder about what I think I know? Okay, so there's some nice red. It's basically red, yellow, ultramarine blue. That was already on there, obviously. Titanium white. I think that was it, really. It's a very limited palette. So let's see what happens now when we get a bit of paper and we start doing this. I often refer people to Turner. If you think my skies are a bit crazy sometimes, go and look at William Turner. That man knew skies, he knew them to another level, totally different way of painting from what had been done before. Or should I say, if I'm in correct English, that which was painted before. Anyway, so if I get some red in here, that will darken that a little bit. Let's just put a little bit in the middle there. Now it is actually quite dark, but on the video I think it's actually not looking so dark. Oh, I don't know. That's okay. So, I haven't finished yet. This is going to have a lot more done to it. In fact, I'm really thinking, some days I only pretend to think, but today I'm really thinking that maybe we should turn it even more into like a dark, stormy night coming on. So let's just add some red up into that blue. You see, they don't. It's funny how glazing works. You have control, basically. It's you're not gonna muddy this up. The paint doesn't get thicker. That's what I mean when I refer to mud. It's not to do with the colour of mud. It's the texture. So we got quite thin paint, but it's unbelievably flexible. You see, if I go over a bit of cloud like that one. Okay, and I want that cloud to come back to its original brightness. Because obviously it was white. All I've got to do is take off the red, like so. That's how flexible it is. So don't be afraid to make mistakes. And of course, don't forget, there aren't any mistakes, they're just opportunities. So I'm just going to carry on pushing some of this red around. I've had an idea. It occurred to me that when you get a little stream like that, often, not always, but you get mud on the ground. So I'm going to sort of try to make that slightly more realistic here. And also, I must say now, after a great deal of thought, I'm not going to work on those other paintings today. I might try and do them tomorrow, or in fact the day after, because I can only go at a certain pace due to my heart problem. So I'm going to sort of slow it down a bit. Well, I'm taking it easy and not slowing the painting down. So here's an interesting colour, he said, without you being able to see it. It's Payne's grey and red ochre mixed. And what I'm going to do, you see, I like the light hitting the grass here. You know that sort of look when there's obviously a bright beam of light hitting a patch of land, but I'd like something in contrast. There's two ways to do this. You could have that all the way across, or you can do what I'm going to do now, and that is to sort of tone this side down a bit more. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to put a bit of a glaze on there, darken the sky a bit down the bottom here, because I can't resist it. I've got to have that sort of slightly threatening hint of a storm coming. So that's what I will jolly well do. So let's have some nice shapes here. What I do when I'm painting, I don't know whether other people do this, but I'm very lucky to have this good recall. I can recall things very well. Images, anyway. Images and people's faces, no problem with that. Who knows what their names are? I don't know. Mystery to me. But anyway, I never forget a face. But I sometimes I will just go onto YouTube and look for an artist. For instance, I'm always going on about Constable and Turner, but I do find it useful to sort of absorb what they did and just stare at their paintings and see what I can sort of glean from it. Although there are some living artists as well. I've mentioned him before. One of my absolute favourites today is James Norton. Not the actor, the artist. If you want to search for him, it's James Norton, artist. And he paints landscapes, and they're absolutely gorgeous. He's got an amazing technique. and worth a look at. And sometimes I just go and look at his paintings. Usually, though, I spend a lot of time looking at constables. I used to look at, sorry, I beg your pardon, Turners. I used to look at constable skies when I was much younger, but as I've aged, I've started to really like Turner skies more. Okay, so we're really getting nice and dark and, well, two ways of looking at it: dark and mysterious, or dark and miserable. I don't know. I prefer the word mysterious. And I think these colours are looking really quite interesting down here. And then the ground, you see, the ground has got a strong shadow across it. Yeah, I think that really does bring it out quite well. So do I want a muddy effect along there? I'm not sure that I do, really. I mean, I could do it with what have I got here? Red ochre won't necessarily work for that because it is actually quite red. I can probably make something up, because I'll tell you what I never use it, funnily enough, and that's burnt sienna. Never use the stuff. So I'll tell you what, I'm going to sort of fiddle around with a little bit of Payne's grey. Let me think, what should we put in there? Let's put some green in it. A little bit of sap green. I'm chatting away about what I'm mixing up here, which must be boring as heck. Anyway, there's a palette. Most of the paint on this is actually dry. But if I hold it like that, you'll notice that the paper's hanging over, but nothing is falling off. It's got oil in it, but it hasn't got too much oil. I don't want it falling about all over the place. And while I'm talking about that, in fact, I'm going to just mention, somebody said, I haven't replied to him yet. Someone said, "Oh, I noticed you don't use as much oil as you used to." Well, that's true. I don't. And that's because, you know, as you paint and as your craft develops, you do have changes. Your style may change slightly, and your preferences. And it is just my preference at the moment not to have too much oil. That's all it is. Nothing mysterious. Okay, so I'm putting this muddy colour on here. This is sap green and red ochre with Payne's grey. So I'm knocking some of the red out of it. So if I just sort of literally slap that on there, well, I say slap, it's not dollops of paint, it's just it's a bit of a stain at this stage. So let's have a little bit along here, and I'll be hitting that with the paper in a minute. I just want to get a bit of mud on the ground, you know. I'm sort of fascinated by things like that, which, when you think about it, is quite strange. Now, a bit of paper on that just to take the edge off it. At the moment, it looks like a brown stripe and a brown stripe. We don't want that. We want it sort of blending into the grass a bit. Like so. A bit of muddy grass. And I'll be going on this with light green again soon. Okay, so there's a little bit of muddy effect. Not quite finished yet, but getting there. Now, the sky here is looking quite fascinating. I quite like the texture that it's bringing out. It's quite a nice effect. But I'm going to just smooth out a few little bits and add a few light spots. All builds up. And once you put the varnish on it, it'll look even more incredible. varnishing. I highly recommend varnishing. I don't know whether you all varnish your paintings, but it does affect the colours and the way light refracts. Makes everything look much more vibrant. So there we are. There's a little bit of red in the mix there. And yeah. Okay, now what I want to do over the other side. Oh, and I will be bringing out some of these tree trunks, which you can barely see, I think, on the video. But I'm going to bring them out a little bit, and I'm also going to add a little bit more definition to the trees. But across here, I'm going to just sort of fiddle with some light green. And the way I'm going to do this is with paper, a little bit of green. All I want to do is just sort of a few more catch lights. I don't want lines, okay? I want a line or two, but I don't want just a mass of lines. There has to be a connection. That's what I'm after. Let's bring that down there a little bit, just to take the edge off that shadow there. Okay. And to keep it interesting for the viewer, I think it's worth doing this, particularly when you're making a video. You have to have. It's not. I'll tell you what. Okay, I'll explain something. It's not like painting a picture. When you make a video, it's a whole different exercise because you are. You've got to keep the viewer interested, so you have to work quite quickly. Now I can edit out a few gaps if I'm away from the painting too long, but generally you've got to keep a flow going. So that's what makes making videos slightly tricky. So I've got my tree trunks. Let's see what we can do with the tree trunks. Do I need to zoom in? Let's zoom in just a touch. Okay, so there's already a few of these trees that are catching the light, and I don't want them all to be the same. What I want to do is get the eye to jump about. So here's one that's reasonably bright. So I'm just going to literally just touch it in a few places. You don't have to follow the whole tree trunk down. If you do it as little dots like that, it's much more interesting. It's almost like you're painting a little birch tree because they look like that, you know. Oh my goodness, some of the stuff I come out with is complete rubbish, isn't it? So here we got a little hint of it through the trees, getting stronger down there, and then it hits the planet. Splat. Okay, so there's another one. That puts a little bit of tension going on there. If they were both the same, it tends to be a bit calm. If you put an angle in, it creates tension in a picture. If you look at the classical paintings of battle scenes, obviously everything, you know, spears, swords, all at different angles, and that creates tension in the viewer. So that's why they do it. Calm, reasonably calm, tension. Okay, so we're going for a sort of bit of a mix here. So there's one in the background that's catching a bit of light just there. Look, and in fact, let's have a little spot or two on there. Okay, and there's another one here. Let's just sort of tickle it a bit. There we go. So we've got a little mound in the trees there, and that gives you a little extra place to go and visit in the painting. We've got some straight up and downy trees here. This is up and downy species. So let's put a few catch lights on those. Now this sort of thing, I always work from the top down. Okay, if it was a big chunky tree, I might work from the bottom a little bit. But generally with things that are spindly like that, it's better to let your arm drop. So let's try it here. So we got, and you don't have to be overly accurate, you know, it's a semi-impressionistic image you're making. So there we are, less is more. So we don't want to overdo it. Well, I don't want to overdo it. You might want to overdo it, I don't. And it works better if you don't, I think. So let's put a little bit more just there. Okay, so there's our little wood with a few tree trunks poking up. So next thing is I'm going to try and get a bit of texture on the leaves when I find out where to put my brush. Incidentally, I'll show you something. This is I've shown people this before. It's where I put my brushes when I'm painting, and I think it's a rose holder or something to do with flower arranging. I picked it up in a junk shop, ceramic. You can get them all made of all kinds of stuff. But when you stick a brush in it, it's designed to keep all the. Imagine these as being plants. It's designed to keep the heads apart. So you can put a wet brush in there and just sort of let it drop, and it won't touch another brush. They're all poking away from the middle. Useful little gadget, that. No batteries. Very cheap to run. And just got the first lump of paint on my clothing for today. Bound to happen. Okay, so there is some variation in tone and colour on there, but I want to sort of twinkle it up a bit. So what I'm going to do, screw up a bit of paper. So we've got brownish green, greenish green, shaded green, reddish green. So it's quite nice little variation. So what I'm going to do now, okay, it's a piece of paper. I think I've shown you this recently, probably on my last video. Scrunch it up as much as you can, okay? When you open it, it'll be covered in bumps. You could use a brush if you want. I just like the immediacy of this technique. It's a bit like rag rolling. Remember the 80s? I'm sure some of you don't, but I can remember the 50s. So that goes back a bit. Right, so we've got lighter bits, as I said, light, dark, light. So let's see what we can enhance here, but using, I mean, when I say minimum, I mean the minimum of minimum amount of texture. So a few bits here. I've got a 2-day event coming up this month. This month being June. I think it's the 15th and 16th of June. I've got a 2-day event on foliage. At least I think it's foliage. Yes, it is. And my next normal Zoom class, which is the 8th of this month, that's going to be a seascape. So if you're into seascapes, well, it's called, in fact, I'll tell you what, I'm going to call it a beachscape. It'll be the simplest way that I can show you how to paint the transition between the sea and the beach. Okay, so these are, I'm really trying to keep these marks to the minimum. I don't want to sort of overdo it. I quite like things to be understated. Okay, that's coming along okay. Okey-doke. What other questions have people asked me lately? Somebody mentioned my... Okay, I've got one video that's got well over 3 million views. I can't remember what it is at the moment, but they said, oh, the painting changes at the end. The sky, it's called the illusion of detail. The illusion of detail. And the sky doesn't look the same at the end, and it's quite. I'll tell you why that is. It's because it's one of the first videos I made, and my camera that I used wasn't wonderful. I had all the settings on it totally wrong, because I didn't think anyone would look at it. I just sort of banged out the video. The exposure is not brilliant, and when I took the photographs at the end, of course, a photograph doesn't often match a video, so that's why it looks different. Somebody asked me why it looks different, and that's the reason why, and it's just my ineptitude, that's all. No mysteries. And I'll put a little link up there somewhere, should appear about now. A little thing flashes up and tells you click on this, I don't know. I think they call them cards. They're called cards in video making language. There we are. So that's that. I don't really want to do too much more on the trees. I'm quite happy with them like that. But I think it's all, you know, at the moment I'm just sort of not quite sure what I want to do really, but maybe a bit more light green across the grass. Let's point you in the right direction. Okay, so over here, what do we want to do? This sort of grass here is very thrown on. As you remember I said earlier, this is done in a Zoom class and it's very quick, maximum of an hour for the entire thing. Although of course now I've added another half an hour to it or whatever. So by the time, you know, from start to finish, I guess this painting wouldn't be more than a couple of hours. So yeah, the textures in the land are a bit sort of literally just very basic. So I'm just thinking maybe I should just break it all up a little bit more. And I do like this shaft of light effect hitting a distant field. But what I'm thinking is this. I'm thinking of taking it up slightly so that there's the hint of a hill beyond this bright section here. So one way to do that, okay, so I've got a piece of paper that's got light green on it, and I've got some sap green on my palette. So if I just, literally I'm just sort of smudging this on the palette into a slightly darker green. I could do it with a brush, but I'll just, you know, why not do it with paper if it works. So if I put a smudge in the sky up here and see what happens to it when I do that, what indeed does it do? See, quite often I will do something like that and see how much I cringe. And there's a slight cringe, not a big one, because I know everything is fixable. And the minute you figure that out, the minute your paintings start to change. And nothing is a disaster anymore. It could be a little bit of a disaster, but you know, not too much. So I've got some green floating in the sky, so now I'm going to sort of cut down into that. I know I'm in the way, I do beg your pardon. Maybe I try it from this angle. Okay, so what I'm trying to do is just cut the sky back down like that, so that in that darkness you get a hint of something going further off into the distance. So I've magically transported the other side of the picture again. The power of editing. Now, so there, I put this line here. Do I actually want it to be that bright? I don't think I do. I think I don't mind it in one or two places, so we'll just sort of break it. Like so. That'll push it away a bit. Okay, good. So here, dark blue, which is dry, light green, it's actually called light green, pretty well straight out the tube, a little bit of sap green added to it. And what I want now is hills in the shadows disappearing into the distance. So let's put in some marks, because when you analyze painting, it's all about mark making. What type of mark you make and where you make your mark. Okay, so we've got some nice little things floating about in the sky there. So I'm going to try connecting them to the planet a little bit. So let's just, another technique here, the loose bit of paper effect, just that, you know, slightly fluffy end to it, and just sort of drag it and see what happens. It may make some nice shapes, it may just mute it slightly. Either way, it'll be interesting. Oh, that word. Okay. So that's looking coolish. Right, so I'm wondering to myself, we've got the sky up here. Let's just see what happens when we do this, because I haven't really had my fill of sky quite yet. That's just going to fiddle with the camera slightly. Got to be really careful when you make videos, you know. I put up a video a few years ago, and I must have missed something in the editing. And it was in the days when it used to take hours. It was, I mean, I'm not kidding. Let's just put that there for a minute. It took hours to upload. 24 hours on average to upload a video of, you know, me painting for an hour. That's a long time. That's how slow it was. And now I use Starlink, and I can upload a video in about an hour. So, you know, good old Starlink. But the point is that I obviously didn't pay enough attention to my editing. And I got one of the first messages I got was from someone who said, "Do you realise that halfway through we get just a video of your cat sitting on a windowsill looking out?" Oh no. Well, I didn't think, oh no. I thought much more graphic thoughts than just, oh no. So I had to take the video down and then, you know, re-edit. So yeah, you've got to keep your wits about you, if you've got any wits left. Okay, now that's sort of a nice bit of light catching that cloud there, quite like that. So over the years, I think I'm better at keeping out of the way. I'm not sure. What I really need is, I need a camera person. Can't say cameraman. A camera being to operate the camera for me, and also to tell me to get out the way. Right, let's just have a few marks there. Good, like that. You see that if I'm left unchecked, my skies get more and more crazy. So there we go. That's starting to, You know, I mentioned it in my last video, there's comes a point in a painting where you really, well, I always say, you know, the paint starts to talk and all kinds of interesting things pop up. And I think we're at that point now where it just gets, it turns from work to fun. Although I must say, I tend to think of it as fun mostly. In fact, the only time it was ever work for me was when I used to do commissions. I don't do commissions, not for a long time, years and years now, because it's just too much trouble. I don't mind, you know, selling the odd painting. Oh, on the subject of selling paintings, right, so when you upload a painting to Facebook, there are certain groups that appear to have administrators, but I don't know what's going on, but you get all these people saying, oh, I just by some chance saw your paintings and I would think they're absolutely stunning, and I would, if you send me a direct message, I would like to discuss buying your paintings. Now, sometimes they mention NFTs, but sometimes they don't. But I have to say, you know, if you get that kind of message, be really careful, because they're mostly trying to con you. You wouldn't believe how many people send these messages to me, and I know they're con artists, because I'll tell you how, a way you can figure it out. Right, okay. By all means, you can send them a direct message. That's not going to hurt anyone. But then suggest to them that you have a chat on Zoom because you'd like to talk to them face to face, and then they'll disappear. That's one of the best signs of a con artist. They will never, ever talk to you face to face, because the picture that they have on their profile, you can pretty well guarantee it is not them. It's a different person. They've stolen the picture from somewhere. So be careful. It's and what they're playing on people's desire, I suppose. Yeah, desire to make a living as a painter. But you've got to be very cautious. You know, it's a bit depressing that it even happens. You know, when you think, what's going on? What's going on in the world to make everybody, well, not everybody, but to make so many people want to con you. So the skies changed a little bit there, and interesting, because my mind while I was talking was not on skies. So that's a good demonstration of what can happen when you don't try too hard. Just let it flow. I'll show you the top of that. Okay, nice, interesting, quite realistic sky. In fact, slightly crazier over that side. I'm going to do a little bit of work above the trees, just there. Sorry about all the wobbling. I did say I wasn't going to wobble the camera, didn't I? So, yeah, when you get approached on Facebook, be very careful. There we go. Right, do you have trouble painting skies? Well, if you watch this, now you won't have trouble, because you can see how easy it is. Think of something else. Push the paint around. Oh no, look that. I hate it when, well no, I don't hate it. Find it irritating. There's obviously a bristle stuck in the paint there. And in fact, you know, I'm not sure, it may not even be a bristle. Could be a cat hair. In fact, it is a tabby cat hair. So I know who that came from. Okay, now if you get that, what will happen is it'll leave a dent You may not have a cat, but it could be a hair off your head. You get a dent in the paint. So all you've got to do is burnish it slightly. I'm going to use my nail, just sort of flatten out the groove that it's made. Okay, that's done. And then I'll turn that into something that hides that mark. Right, so what should we do? Let's use a bit of let's use a little bit of ultramarine blue, because I think that's what's up there in the first place. It's either ultramarine or phthalo. It won't matter if I use a different blue, because it's just I'm just gonna sort of smear it over it slightly. In fact, it's what's on my palette is ultramarine, so as that's the one that is there, that's the one I'll use. So we just push that on there. Like so. That's it. Probably don't need to do anything else to it. No, I don't. That's fine. But I might anyway. Or will I? No, I won't. Right. So we're getting there. Got an interesting thing going on over here. We've got this nice reddish, strange effect here. It's quite weird. A multi-dimensional sky. And why not? Okay, that's interesting. There's like a interesting shape there, which I might break just by doing that to it. Slightly, yeah, that's a bit better. Okay. And there we are. I think that's almost it for the day. So I'll try and do another video of the painting that's on the screen now. The foreground needs tidying up, simplifying, and it's not easy on a painting that is that wide. It's actually 50 centimeters by 200 centimeters. I think, is it 200? I don't know. It's either 150 or 200 centimeters wide, 50 deep, somewhere around there. If I find my tape, I'll measure it and let you know. Okay, so let's have a look across the sky. Yeah, it's looking stormy but bright. Okay, and the transition between the sky and the land, slightly blurred. I like that, that's good. A little bit of detail on the trees, and a little bit of mud either side of the pond, ditch, river, or whatever. And I may even go back to this and do more to it in the future. But for now, let's let that dry and then we'll come back to it. So thank you very much for watching, take care, and I'll see you on the next video. Bye for now.